Hello and welcome to The Court Jester, the podcast that takes you on a wild ride through the most scandalous stories of the Middle Ages. I am Cleopethenu, medievalist, storyteller, and your host. Today's story is called The Chaplain's Goose. We are about to meet a priest with a plump bird, a sweetheart stashed in a chest, and a clerk with the audacity to blame his dinner theft on Christ himself. It's funny, it's blasphemous, and it's a reminder that medieval comedy didn't always play nice with piety. Consider this your content warning. But before we get to the goose, a word about Patreon and about the next episodes. The Court Jester is going to go on a break with the intention to return in December just before Christmas, just in time for Christmas. And I'll do my best for a Halloween special, but no promises. If you're following on Patreon, you will receive a separate message about this and about all the details that concern you. If you're following on socials, you will be spammed with a lot of old episodes just to keep your memory fresh and the spirit alive. Now, that's out of the way, so let's talk about that goose. This happened to a chaplain once, a man of breeding and good sense who dealt nearby the river Sèvres. The river fish were in abundance, and so the chaplain was never in need of food and drink. His name was Yves, and he owned a fine, fat goose which he kept shut up in his stable. The goose had hatched just this spring. It was a very tender bird, and it's high time now that you will hear just how the chaplain's goose was cooked, and he gave up the right to eat it. The chaplain, when his goose was slaughtered, invited his sweetheart, who sure did have a sweet mouth that drove him wild. And before you ask questions, she was godmother to his godchild, so people would not raise an eyebrow or make a scandal for the fact that they may kiss and fondle. So when at last the roast goose was done, slowly and without much fuss, he covered up the bird, because his clerk had yet to make the sauce. And the clerk did, and he made a thick, smooth, creamy, rich sauce that made his own body itch to have a share. The priest, however, didn't care to get his clerk get his beard greasy, for he intended to take all of the bird for himself and his beloved. So the table's set. The priest has called his lady friend, and he has made her sit on a cushion by the grate, in the exact spot when he can better look at her and contemplate her lovely features. The priest sat down and took his place, and before he had a chance to say grace, because of course you want to do that when you're a priest and you want to meet your lover, a messenger came to the door, bringing him information for which he had neither interest nor use. He was very annoyed. "Quick," he said to his clerk, "take the goose, and take the cake and a pitcher, and take them to the kirk and keep them there." The clerk did as instructed, and then he rushed back to the room and grabbed the cup and the tablecloth and the sharp knife, and he took off, closing the door behind him first, making sure that nobody entering the priest's house would find out that there was a feast arranged in that place not 5 minutes ago. There was a chest there in the room. The priest told his sweetheart to come and get into it, and he placed her very carefully inside the chest and closed the lid and shut her in, and took the key away with him. So, after he tidied her up, he ran to the door. "Who's there?" he said. "Who's banging at my door like a berserk?" "It's me, father, Dom Clement's clerk," said a voice from the other side of the door. "He sent me to you with a letter." "Does the man have nothing to do at this ungodly hour? At the slightest hint of a word from our bishop he writes to me. For all his camaraderie, I just wish he'd get off my back," said the priest, but opened the door anyway, and took the letter with as much grace as he could muster. His clerk, meanwhile, is at the church, with the goose, and the wine, and the tablecloth, and the cups, and he has a lot of time for banqueting, and so he thinks, it's only going to be a drumstick, and then just a wing. And before long he's imagined the neatest scam you've ever heard. He climbed on the altar and smeared with goose fat just the mouth and lips of Christ on the crucifix, and stuck a drumstick in his fist. He's sure he can convince the priest that he stood and watched as the icon tossed down goose and cake and garlic sauce and drank a pitcherful of wine. Eventually the priest sends Dom Clement's clerk away, goes to the chest and straight away helps his lady friend climb out. And then it's time for dinner. So the clerk begins to yell and shout, come quickly, good Christians all around. The chaplain runs to have a look. His clerk has thrown the doors of the church open wide. See what has happened here, he cries. Who knows what kind of devil streaks these are? Who knows what has possessed our crucifix? For only just now I saw it make a meal out of your goose and cake and gravy and drink all the wine. I tried to stop it. See the fine mess it has made, and see how smug it looks with goose grease all over its mug. So now you've heard how the clerk's feast was underwritten by the priest, the chaplain's polished off his goose, and his bread will serve some other use. And that was the chaplain's goose, a story where the bird gets eaten, the priest gets fooled, and the clerk proves that with enough goose grease and imagination, even a crucifix can be part of the punchline. If you like this story, send it to a foodie friend who is very protective of their roast dinner. And if you enjoyed this tale of appetite and audacity, you will find more like it, some of it too spicy for the main feed, over on Patreon. It's also the best way to support the show and keep these medieval stories alive, saucy and accessible. And if you don't want to do that and still like what I do, like, subscribe and leave a review and tell everyone you know about the court jester, and follow on all socials to keep the conversation going. Thank you for listening. Until next time, remember, in the Middle Ages, nothing was safe from being turned into a joke, not even your dinner.